They stepped out into the rain. But this rain was different. The world around them was empty. A street lamp hummed faintly. Each drop carried darkness within it. A black puddle, like ink, spilled into reality. George leaned over the puddle. Emily grabbed his shoulder, stopping him.
Step back.
It seemed the puddle was fading. A false alarm. But in its reflection atop the raindrops, a black, hooded figure appeared. The group approached a bench. The rain intensified. The longer they stayed in the rain, the deeper the infection spread. A drop landed on Susie. Her hand turned blurry, translucent. Emily screamed, pulling it away. They vanished. Peppa noticed bubbles rising in the old well. Evie began to cry softly. Black liquid dripped from the corner of her mouth. She reached toward the well. Even the little one understood. Something was hiding there. From the puddles lining the path, tendrils slithered out, surrounding Susie and Emily. The darkness didn't just take, it held on. Peppa ran, shielding Evie with an umbrella. Emily broke free, but stumbled. Tendril grabbed her. Her scream echoed everywhere. In the glow of the street lamp stood the Dripper, massive, black droplets trailing down his cloak. He was the soul of this rain. He whispered. Peppa, holding Evie in her arms, approached him, the umbrella raised like a shield. The final question, is it worth fighting, escape, or become? Peppa and Mom were choosing products from the shelves. Soon they noticed a figure in a dark cloak. Sometimes ordinariness concealed something else. The faceless shopper suddenly turned his head. Smooth gray skin was covered with cracks from which black liquid dripped and red dots flickered. Peppa nudged Mom.
Look.
Instead of the frightening figure, an ordinary shopper smiled and took a can of beans. Peppa approached the exit and looked outside. The cloak of the faceless one flashed in the doorway as he walked away down the street. He had already gone outside. Peppa stepped out onto the square. Among the passers-by, suddenly several faceless ones froze motionless. Gray faces with cracks and red dots flickered in the crowd. The crowd concealed their faces, but they harbored a great secret. One faceless one slowly raised his tentacle-like hand and pointed at Peppa. For a moment, all the passers-by distorted their faces, their skin pale. Cracks filled with black liquid and red dots flared up. Terrified, Peppa spun around and ran into a narrow alleyway. Peppa ran through the tight alley, panicking as she looked back. Black liquid was dripping down the walls, sticking to her little shoes. The streetlights flickered, but there wasn't enough light. Peppa froze at the door. For a moment, everything was completely silent. Only her rapid breathing could be heard. At that very moment, a faceless one leapt out of a puddle. His mouth opened in an inhuman grimace, and tentacles. George was standing by an open, empty toy box, crying.
My dinosaur is gone.
When the main thing is lost, the scary awakens. Peppa entered the room, hugged her brother, and looked around. Peppa's gaze was drawn to something on George's bed. An old plush teddy bear covered in black liquid. She found not what she was looking for. The buttons on the bear were slightly trembling and turning toward Peppa. Black liquid slowly seeped from a seam under its ear. Suddenly, the bear threw out a paw tentacle and grabbed Peppa's hand. Peppa screamed and threw the bear away. It twitched on the floor, then ran off into the corridor. Peppa grabbed George's hand and ran after him. The chase had begun. Peppa and George wandered in the semi-darkness. On the walls, black paw prints. At the dark end of the corridor, a silhouette of a bear flickered. It disappeared behind the attic door. Where light did not reach, dwelled the keeper. Peppa took a flashlight from the wall. They slowly climbed up the creaky stairs. Along the edges, webs of black tentacles like veins of living darkness. The center of the hall was covered in cobwebs. In it sat the bear keeper, grown to Peppa's size. Around, old toys, dolls with empty eye sockets, cars with red headlights frozen in anticipation. All forgotten toys began to move slowly. Their heads and headlights turned toward Peppa and George. The bear keeper hissed in a low voice.
Lost toys, your fault.
His mouth with needle-sharp teeth opened wide, black liquid pouring out. Tentacles from the bear lunged at Peppa. She dodged, throwing aside the box. and out rolled Dinosaur. George shouted and ran to him. Peppa turned on her flashlight at full brightness. Its beam blinded the keeper. He squealed. His tentacles recoiled. He ran into a crack in the floor. Peppa and George descended the stairs. They ran into their bedroom and slammed the door shut. It was quiet in the room. On Peppa's bed stood the bear keeper, but he was motionless. Next to him lay George's dinosaur with a grin of needle-sharp teeth. They will come for you if you forget about them. A typical evening, tea, girlfriends. Nothing foreshadowed trouble. The light bulbs suddenly began to flicker. The girls fell silent and looked up. The first alarm. The house had awakened. Susie began to tremble. The hum grew louder. The shadows became restless. The shadow beneath Susie's chair pulsed and darkened. Susie screamed, dropping her doll. Peppa grabbed Susie's hand. The shadow reached for Susie's leg. The kitchen turned into a trap. The girls ran into the living room. The room was quiet. The silence was deceptive. The couch's shadow melted onto the floor, turning into a flat black puddle. It slowly spread across the floor. From its center rose something like a shapeless ink-blot tentacle. Susie stared in horror. Peppa recoiled. The puddle slid toward them, stretching. Peppa shoved Susie toward the hallway door, but escape was a lie. Darkness awaited them there too. A mass of wallpaper was already partly oozing down under the stairs. An eye on a tentacle stared at them. The Shadow Eater had seeped out of the living room. Peppa and Susie ran toward the staircase. The eater tried to cut them off, sliding along the wall. Susie nearly fell. The pounding of footsteps, heavy breathing, the rising sounds of monsters. Peppa pulled Susie into the nursery and slammed the door. Black liquid seeped from underneath. A message appeared on the wall. "We are in the walls." George was there too. Black film covered his mouth. His black eyes shot open. The darkness had already consumed him. George's shadow tore away from the wall, forming a new eater. Susie screamed in terror. Peppa spotted a flashlight on the dresser. Bright light. In the flashlight beam, the Shadow Eater recoiled, writhing as it slithered under the door. The wallpaper, a giant mass with eyes, was stuck to the outside window. The flashlight flickered wildly and died. A wet, slurping sound echoed in the dark. Suddenly, Peppa's face with black eyes. "Your house has consumed the light.